Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And I'm starting to think that Moonkin stocks might be starting to rise a little bit more. I'm seeing them more and more. And after my recent session of playing Boomkin, Demon Hunter, Restoration Shaman, which was my anticipated best balanced druid composition, I'm starting to think the same. It seems like if you are performing optimally, you're going to be able to pull off victories against even some of the most meta compositions, and you're going to have a really good time doing it. In this particular video, I will be facing head-to-head with a rogue mage priest and discussing my strategies and how I'm going to be looking to combat this composition because it is very popular at the moment. The first major component of strategy here against rogue mage priest is to trade your medallions effectively. This means to not overlap them. This medallion is your major escape mechanism for crowd control, and if a rogue mage sees two players using two at the same time, they know their route to victory is just one setup closer than it should have been. So you do want to always be making sure that if someone is going to be using a medallion to break crowd control, that it is only one player, and if you don't, then you had better be prepared to end the game almost immediately afterwards. It is also a composition where you do want to anticipate your opponents by spreading out and creating distance so you can anticipate their attacks. If you see one target getting stunned, this usually means that the rogue mage priests are going to be starting their attack, which means you can then premeditate it and activate your defensives before you yourself are stunned. So you want to be paying attention to your party frames. If you see a dragon's breath, if you see a chastise, or you see a cheap shot on one of the players of your team, likely they are about to start their attack, and you can anticipate it by activating your defensives before that attack even happens, and you'll be able to save a medallion to then extend the game further on. Offensively, with this composition, the best strategy that I've found so far is to run down the mage. As soon as you've survived their attack, run down the mage, spam purge on the mage, and do as much damage as possible while crowd controlling the priest. And as soon as they're ready for their next attack, time to play defense. So in the opening stages, my job is to solar beam the priest as soon as possible to prevent their crowd control on myself, then to crowd control the DPS with incapacitating roar or with disarm. So I land incapacitating roar onto two players, the mage and rogue, and I solar beam the priest, which prevents their entire attack here over onto my demon hunter. However, the rogue then uses cloak of shadows to break crowd control, so we will trade defensives such as the blur for the demon hunter, which is still more than fair for the combustion and shadow dance of the subtlety rogue. However, we are still dipping low even through that, so we're trying to cyclone and stabilize, but it looks like finally the crowd control chain has stopped. So with this cyclone now secured onto the priest, we've survived their attack. It's time to stun the mage, CC the priest, purge the mage, and throw everything that we've got at the mage. This is when you want to dump your empowerments, dump your star surges, is almost immediately after the rogue mage's attack, because they will not be able to attack you until their diminishing returns have reset, which means they're going to do 0 damage for somewhere between 15 to 20 seconds. And during this time, we were able to get ice block from the mage. Now, having forced that major defensive, you can get squeezing a little bit of greedy damage onto the other players in between, but you do want to try and to anticipate the next attack incoming by creating a little bit of distance here. So I'm preemptively cloning the rogue, anticipating that the diminishing returns are resetting now for the opposing team and they want to start stunning things. So I'm just cycloning the rogue to extend that diminishing return timer just a little bit longer. But here's Dragon's Breath on my shaman, clone the mage to stop the polymorph, clone the mage's trinket, because with that Dragon's Breath, they have to attack. So now I see a cheap shot, so I'm going to cast Cyclone again, just still trying to slow down the enemy attackers as much as possible. I have my disarm at this point in time as well, so I could use a disarm on the rogue during the stun lock on my demon hunter, which stops the restun, which then allows my demon hunter to escape to safety here and to be able to potentially reverse the polymorph, although I think we used reverse in the first setup. Then I'm going to switch the cyclone over to the priest. We're going to trade nether walk during this setup just to be safe, but still one cooldown and still holding on to all of our medallions, which is a great position to be in. They swap to me, which is very common for rogue mage. It's important to communicate to your team to stop mind games when they're attacking you as a balanced druid. So I tell my demon hunter to stun the priest. That stops the mind games, and that easily then allows me to survive the swap to myself. We've survived the attack. This is where we need to get aggressive, get on top of the mage, spam purge on the mage, do as much damage as possible, try to get some CC on the priest. We don't really have DRs because we tried using them to save ourselves during that last setup. We have a solar beam, but the priest is out of line of sight. So we're just going to dump damage into the mage to try and get the priest to come out into the open. Then we're going to imprison the priest. I'm casting Cyclone preemptively on the rogue. Rogue vanishes to immune it, and this is where we know they're going to set up. Cheap shot on the shaman, sheep on the demon hunter, and chastise on me. Now in this position, likely someone's going to have to trinket. There's no preemptive move, but we make a mistake. I trinket to Solar Beam the Priest to stop utility there, and my Demon Hunter trinkets Darkness. So usually this would be a very bad mistake to make. I think the trinket Darkness was definitely the right move in this position, but with the Solar Beam landed and we already got Ice Block from the Mage, we can then just continue to run down the Mage, and we're going to be able to force their Cauterize. We get a Hex while the Mage is stunned, which is great. This then forces the Priest trinket. They Greater Fade to immune further crowd control, but that Greater Fade is going to be ending Sloon, so I'm going to Cyclone the Mage at low health, prevent the Priest from recovering during the immunity of the Greater Fade, and then reposition to the Priest to chain it into an end cap into a Cyclone of my own. And with no Medallion, no Cauterize, and no Ice Block, this match is likely to end. We still have Trinket Spirit Link if we absolutely need to survive here, but it would be, in my opinion, a bit of a mistake to overlap the medallions between myself and my Demon Hunter. But if you are able to kind of predict their attacks, as I've just outlined in this video, preemptively activate your Blur, preactively activate a Grounding Totem or a Tremor Totem on a Fear, try and premeditate their attacks based on where you're looking at on your party frames, you'll be able to kind of land that. And one of two things will happen. Either the Rogue Mage will stop to see Blur, which then gives you just 10 more seconds of attack, or they're going to set up into that damage reduction cooldown and not be able to execute on a kill. So that's why it's very important to understand the win conditions of their composition and then try and play around it, know when their damage is low, which is immediately after their stun lock, and try and run them over, and then spread out, predict where they're going with their attacks based on your allies' party frames. And like I said, any CC you see on anyone on their team, they're starting something. So you can pre-stun something, pre-incap, whatever class you are, pre-activate a defensive cooldown, something like that, and it will really kind of throw a wrench in the Rogue Mage's plan. And this is my main goals and strategies when dealing with compositions like this. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video and this insight, and I hope that it's improved your gameplay. If it did, please hit the subscribe button, as it does help me and I do greatly appreciate it. And if you want to stay up to date with news and patch changes to the game when they come out, I'm basically bringing those to the channel here in real time as well. So other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.